In my free time, I like to dip into my bag of 300 cotton balls and eat a few periodically. Hi, my name's Judah, and welcome. Today, we'll be talking about the movie Coraline. Alright, so last week I talked about Nosferatu, and there wasn't as much structure to it as I wanted. So this week, I forgot to tell everybody the criteria that I rate movies on. I mentioned it, but I didn't tell you what they were. So my ratings are based off of story, aesthetics, and acting. And so this week, to have more structure, I will go down that list and first talk about the story, then I'll talk about my opinion on the acting and just the acting in general, and then I will talk about the aesthetics and everything to do with that. Talking about aesthetics, if you are a video watcher, you will see that the camera may look a bit different. And because this week, I'm using my phone as a camera. Last week, for some reason, it wasn't connecting to OBS. This week, it decided that it was going to, and I have no idea why. So next week, you probably won't see this next week. One of these next week, you'll see the normal episodes next week. But next time, the camera quality might be bad again, or it might be this again. Who knows? I don't even know. So that's that. But let's just get into it. So I will give a little spoiler warning. I will be talking about the movie Coraline. So if you haven't seen that and you don't want spoilers, maybe don't watch this episode or listen to this episode, because I'm going to be talking all about the movie. Going deep dive into the movie. So that's a little warning for you. Now, oh my god. I never wrote down the rating. I don't know what my rating is. Wait, yes I do. I give this movie a 9.7. I have it memorized. It's the highest rated movie on my list, tied with Whiplash. I watched this movie on November 30th of 2024. I have watched it many times, but I haven't watched. That's the most recent time and the only time that I've watched it while making this list of movies and documenting this list of movies. So, but I have watched it maybe like 5 or 6 other times. I love the movie. That's why it's a 9.7. Also, I mentioned Whiplash. I definitely will talk about Whiplash sometime in the future, because it is an immaculate movie. Alright, let's talk about the story. So I'll give a brief description. Coraline is about a girl named Coraline who moves into a new house with her mother and father. When she is exploring her new house, she finds a little door. Behind the door, there is another world, very similar to her own, but it is better. She is overjoyed by this new world until her parallel family tries to keep her there forever. Coraline now must find a way to get back to her own family and life. Great story. It was originally a book, if you didn't know that. Originally a book written by Neil Gaiman, who is a very well-known author. I don't really know many of his books. I think I started to listen to one. This is kind of exposing myself, but I don't really read books. I listen to audiobooks a lot, though. And so I started listening to, I think it was called Stardust, if I'm not mistaken, but I was like 12 and it was kind of boring to me then. Maybe I should go back to it, because maybe now it's more interesting, but I think it was more, focused towards adults, and I was a kid when I listened to it, so it really wasn't my kind of thing. But what is my kind of thing is my second favorite book by him, because it's the only other book other than Coraline that I know, which is called Fortunately the Milk. It is the weirdest book ever. It's basically a fever dream in writing, and it's odd. It is really weird. it's about milk. So if you're looking for a new book, it's really short. So it's shorter than, a normal book, because I think it's made for kids. But if you're looking for a new book, that's a recommendation. Go read or listen to or whatever you do, however you consume books. Go read Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman. So the book and the movie have a few differences in them. Mainly changes to make the movie, work as a movie. So most of all, the biggest difference, I think, is that Wybie in the movie is not in the book. The reason for this is because Coraline talks to herself in the book, in her head, and in a movie, talking in your head doesn't really help the audience much, because now we have no idea what you're saying. It'd be either that, or she'd be talking to herself. In the movie, we want to hear what she's thinking, so talk out loud. But then she would just be talking to herself the whole movie, and that would be kind of odd. So they added Wybie in so she could talk to somebody and say her thoughts. Instead of just talking to herself, she's able to talk to an actual person. That's why they added Wybie in to the movie, even though he's not in the book. And I don't really like when they change the book, change the story to make a book into a movie. A lot of times it goes very wrong, and they just completely change it. It's not the same story. It's not the same anymore. The fandom, which I don't know if there's much of a fandom for Coraline, but there's a big fan group, I guess. So, but the fandom of those movies don't really like it when people switch around the story for the movie, and that's something I really dislike. Even if I'm not a big fan of the book, I go watch the movie, I don't want it to be very, very different, because that's just not fun, So that's something I like about the storyline, Corey, is that they kind of kept it pretty close to the book as far as I remember. They didn't change up big plot lines or even small ones for the most part. They needed Wybie to be introduced, so they had to do some stuff there, and a few things involving Wybie's character. But other than that, it's pretty consistent, Right now, I hope that my computer fan is not being picked up in my microphone right now, because the fan is very loud. I'm just going to be silent for a second, so maybe you can hear it. I think it is getting picked up a bit. Hopefully that doesn't mess this up too bad. So Wybie's character, that's kind of the biggest difference in the stories that I could even think of. So that's really all I have to say about the story. And now we'll go into the acting. Now, if you don't know, Coraline is a stop-motion animation film, which I love stop-motion animation films, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But it's animated, so, there's no live-action actors or anything. So it's all voice acting. So some of the voice actors you might recognize. A few of them, I recognize only one or two. But we have Dakota Fanning, who is Coraline Jones, the main character. She was in The Watchers, which I actually saw recently. It's an amazing film, and I definitely will be talking about that sometime, eventually. But it is a great one, great film. So she was in that, and she was also in the live-action Cat in the Hat about 3 years before Coraline. No, dude, the Cat in the Hat movie, that is maybe one of the craziest films ever. That is weird. So if you haven't seen the Cat in the Hat live action movie, go check that out, because I don't think your life will be the same after it. It is an unfortunate thing to watch, but it is so funny too. But Dakota Fanning, amazing actor. an amazing voice actor too, you know? And then we have Terry Hatcher, who is the other mother, and Mel Jones, who is just the mother. And she was in the Planes movie. You know, it was like Cars, but Planes, which I completely forgot that was a movie that existed at all. Until I looked up what movie she was in, and then I found out it was that one. She was also in the show Desperate Housewives, which I've heard of, but I haven't seen before. So I haven't really seen Terry Hatcher in anything other than Coraline. So it's kind of a new name to me, new films, which I might check out a few. Then John Hodgman. Now I do know John Hodgman. He is voice acting as the other father, and Charlie Jones, who is just the father. The way I know him is John Hodgman is because he has a podcast called Judge John Hodgman, where he, listens to fans. They call in and they have like a dispute or whatever with their friend, husband, whatever. And they're kind of more for entertainment. It's nothing really serious. And he kind of just is a judge, and he'll hear them out, hear their sides, and then decide who wins and all that. So it's a really fun podcast. Me and my dad listen to it all the time. So if you're looking for a new podcast, go check that out. Judge John Hodgman on podcast platforms. I don't know exactly which ones. Definitely Spotify and, Apple Podcasts. Probably other places too. But he was also in a show called, I think it was a show or movie, whichever one, called Dicktown. Never heard of it. No, I have heard of it on the podcast. I have heard of it, haven't seen it, don't know too much about it. But then he was also, little deep dive here, he was in the Mac versus PC ads in the early 2000s. I think it was around 2006. It was, Apple was making ads for, Mac computers, and they were showing how Mac was better than PC. John Hodgman was a PC computer, and Justin Long was a Mac computer. And, they would act out many different skits over different commercials, but that's a little thing that he did. So, moving on, we have Robert Bailey Jr., who is the voice actor of, I didn't write it down for some reason, but he's the voice actor of Wybie. He's in smaller movies, not really well known. It seems like he's not really getting big roles too often, which is unfortunate, because he seems like a good actor. I don't really know anything about him. If he's done something horrible and really wrong, then I guess it isn't unfortunate. But if he's a really cool guy that's just, good actor, trying to make a living, then wish he was in some bigger films. But he was in a movie called Little John and a show called The Night Shift, which I think he did have a bigger part in, it seemed. So, it seems like it's a doctor, like about nurses and doctors and stuff. So, that's what that's about. Then we have Ian McShane, who is Mr. Bobinski and the other Mr. Bobinski. Now, Mr. Bobinski is my favorite character in the movie. Just the way he acts and, like, the shape of him. He's just, I don't know. He's visually, I wouldn't say appealing. He's not a very appealing man. But he's satisfying to view, I guess. Just the shape he is made is interesting. And so, I don't know. The way he acts, the way he looks, I like it. He's my favorite character. And nothing wrong with that. Fun fact. He was, in the movie, he helped clean up, or it's theoried that he helped clean up, the Chernobyl explosion. Because he has blue skin, he also has a little metal that he has pinned to his shirt. That's the metal that you get if you helped clean up at Chernobyl. And so, I guess it's less of a theory and more, it's kind of obvious, the metal's right there, that he helped clean up in Chernobyl, which is a really interesting, just little sneak peek, Easter egg, I guess, which is really cool. Ian McShane, the voice actor of Mr. Bobinsky, was also in John Wick 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Kung Fu Panda. So you might know him from those. Kung Fu Panda, you won't recognize him. You might recognize his voice, though. I don't know what character he was. I completely forgot to look. But that's okay. Then we have Jennifer Sonder, who is Miss Spink and Other Spink. Very odd character. Both Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. Weird characters. I mean, a lot of the characters in that movie are odd people. But Jennifer Saunders was in Absolutely Fabulous, which I think was a show, and the movie Sing. So you might recognize her voice from that, and you would get to see what she looks like in Absolute Fabulous. Then Dawn French, who is Miss Forcible and Other Forcible, was in Death on the Nile and the show The Vicar and Dibley. I've never heard of those either, but I guess they exist because they came up when I looked up what movie she was in. And then one of the best characters, we have Keith David, who is the cat. Amazing. Teleporting cat, basically. He's a pretty popular actor. So he was in Princess and the Frog and The Thing, when he was a kid. I think it was when he was a kid, when he acted in The Thing. And then I mentioned last time in the Nosferatu episode, I mentioned the movie Something About Mary. He is also in that film. So if you haven't seen that film, go watch it. It's really, really funny. So I recommend Something About Mary. And now you can relate that to Nosferatu. Why did I even mention it in Nosferatu? I don't even know. But you can relate it to both of these episodes now. Even more to this one because one of the actors is actually, in this movie too. So if you want to relate that back, go ahead. I am going to stop recording real quick just to see if my computer fan is really messing up this audio because I don't want to restart the entire podcast, I'm not going to lie. So I will be back in no time to you guys. Alright, so see ya. And I have returned. The audio, you can hear the fan slightly, but I don't think it's enough to completely restart. And also, I don't really think I can do anything about it. But comment down below. Make sure my hands are mute. Comment down below, everybody, if the fan sound is really bad and that the show sucks because of it. If so, my bad. Sorry. Now we will get into the aesthetics of the movie. Now, I mentioned earlier, I believe, that I love stop-motion movies. So the makers of Coraline are Leica Studios. They do stop-motion films. That's their thing. All of their movies I love. They're all really good. But then I also like movies like, you have the Wallace and Gromit movies, which are claymation, and Shaun the Sheep, which are also claymation, I believe. Or what's the name of the movie? Chicken Run, I think it is. They just recently released a second one. I think that's the name of it. That's also claymation. Those classic Christmas movies like Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, A Year Without Santa Claus, Those ones, those are also stop motion. Those are like some of the first stop motion films. I keep hitting the table so the camera keeps shaking, so if you see the camera shaking, that's what it is. But anyways, those classic Christmas films are some of the first stop motion films, I believe. And those are amazing. I don't know why I like stop motion so much. It's just appealing to me. It might also be because of the, process of making it interests me too. That it draws me in. One day I hope to be able to make a stop motion film. but it is a lot of work, because I know I've watched a few documentaries about, or videos, I guess, about the making of the Coraline film, and especially in the scene where Miss Spink and Miss Forcible are doing their performance, on stage in front of all the dogs and Coraline, and Wybie, like, they're, like, swinging back and forth, and, like, set pieces are swinging in and leaving, and I guess to do that, they moved the pieces for the photos, of the swinging bits less than a millimeter each frame sometimes. Like, it would be so minute of a movement, and that's all they did that day, was like some of that scene. Like, it takes years to make a stop motion film. It's so much work, but I still want to make one day because it seems so cool to do. Back into the aesthetics of Coraline. Actually, you know what? I have a list of Leica Studio movies. Why not list them? So, they made, which all of these I love, Box Trolls. The way the people look in that movie is, once again, like Mr. Bobinski, is not satisfying because they're not nice to look at, honestly. Like, they're kind of gross, but the way they look is just draws me in, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's appealing in a way, but it is not likable. It's gross to look at, but I just love the way they look. The art style that Leica Studio has is really cool. I just enjoy it. They made Box Trolls, they made Paranorman, they made Kubo and the Two Strings, Missing Link, and of course Coraline. Unfortunately, they have not been making their money back in the box office recently on their films, which is really sad to me because I love their films. But like, Box Trolls, Paranorman, and Coraline were huge movies. Like, everybody knows about them. They made hundreds of millions in the box office, but then you scroll down, I found this information on their Wikipedia page. You scroll down and you look at Missing Link and Kubo and the Two Strings, and they raised the budget, because I'm pretty sure, so Coraline I know, but then I'm not sure about Box Trolls or Paranorman. I'm pretty positive that all three of those have a budget of $60 million, I believe, but then once those got popular, they got three huge movies, so they raised the budget to about $100 million, but then they stopped making back the money in the box office on those films, which was really disappointing to me, because, Missing Link and Kubo and the Two Strings are both immaculate movies. They are amazing, as all Leica Studio movies are. I am completely glazing Leica Studios right now, but they deserve it. Like, it's just a fact that they make amazing movies. They're also working on a new film, which they released a trailer, but I don't think there's a release date announced yet. It's called Wildwood. It is based off a book, just like Coraline. It's based off a book by Colin Malloy called Wildwood. You will know Colin Malloy. You might know Colin Malloy, because he is a member of the band The Decemberists. So, I know Cillian is a fan of them, so shout out to Cillian. They're a great band. My parents listen to them, so when I was growing up, as I'm growing up, I'm also listening to them. And they're an amazing band, and Colin Malloy is really cool. And I looked up the book cover earlier today, and I recognized it, and I didn't even realize I knew the book. I couldn't tell you what it's about at all, because I don't remember that well. I think I read it or listened to it a long, long time ago. And so I have no idea what it's about, but I'm really excited for the new film, because it's based off a book of somebody I'm already a fan of, and it's made by a studio that I'm a big fan of. And so it's just really exciting, and I can't wait. And the trailer that they released is kind of like, it's not like a trailer, it's kind of just like showing little bits and like hinting at stuff. And it looks really good. it doesn't look how I was imagining it, but it looks significantly better than how I was imagining it. So that's really exciting. And I think that's all I have. But you know what? I've talked a lot about Coraline right now, all about the things that I like about it. But how about we hear from some other fans that enjoy the Coraline film also?
I like Coraline. It's really awesome and cool. I used to watch it a lot when I was a little kid. Yeah.
Coraline is an excellent movie. My favorite part is when the other father says, "It's other fathering time," and then he other fathers all over the tunnel or whatever. And then he plays that, "Making up a song about Coraline." You know that song? Yeah, that's one of the songs of that movie. I really like that movie. My other favorite part of Coraline, my other favorite part of Coraline is when Coraline says, it is when Coraline does that thing in the movie, and in this movie the thing happens, and that thing happens with the movie. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those little clips of some of our fans and some of Coraline's fans. That's all I have for you today, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.